Okay. Well, g'day everyone. It's Wesley here from Business Blessings, and today I'm with Michael Shaefer. Michael, welcome to our short little introduction video here.
Thank you, Wes.
So, Michael, you're our guest speaker at our next Profit Club breakfast at New Farm on the 19th of August, our monthly breakfast that we're now hosting on the third Wednesday of every month. So you've got a great topic, Michael, and I want to just quickly give some background to this. There's kind of four key areas that we know that small to medium business owners struggle in. So it's cash flow, customers, staff, and marketing. So the theme for this Profit Club is all about staff and human resources. And particularly, I wanted to give a bit of focus because mental health is such a huge issue in staffing these days. Human resource specialists are telling me up to 50% of staff could be on some mental health plan for some reason or not. So we've given you, we've given you a great topic, and that is creating an enriched environment where people can operate well. And I think that's some of the research I've been finding out is actually the environment that staff are in that can actually help staff to thrive. So that's why we've asked you to speak. So, Michael, give us a bit of your background and things so that so people understand how qualified you are to speak on this area.
Look, it depends how far I go backwards. Look, my background actually is in ministry and living in community and ministering from that situation. Then I got involved in inner healing and became a counsellor, specialising in like the spiritual dimension of the Lord bringing healing to people within therapeutic work. So loved that, then moved on to training. So to teach people the same sort of thing. Worked for a number of big organisations in training roles, training chaplains and various staff development work, which I love. I love working with groups. And it's interesting how you mentioned at the beginning, like in a group, it's actually creating an enriched environment that's non-defensive and people can learn and grow, and develop and get motivated to pursue their own growth and something important. So that's the brief background. These days, I'm a psychotherapist. I do work online with people. My particular interest is training people in a particular approach, which we might talk about a bit later, which is the Immanuel approach, where people learn to attune with the Lord, connect with Him, and then interact. And when you can lead a person into that place, really good things happen. So I teach people how to lead people into that place and to coach them to stay there so that good things happen. So otherwise I do a certain amount of staff like supervision, which is it's not the classic clinical supervision that counsellors would do, but how are you going with your work? You're on the front line. Let's talk about it. Let's debrief it, and let's make the most of the experiences you've had in that process. So that's the gamut of where I'm at these days, Wes.
So that's good, Michael. So that gives shows how qualified you are to speak in this area. Human resources is perhaps one of the largest expenses for any business they have. And I have noticed that even my coaching work with small to medium-sized business owners, that the mental health in those areas is such a key issue and topic these days. I've been hearing some horrendous stats of up to 50% of staff, I think I said this before, have mental health issues in the workforce. And this is, I don't know, do you think this is a new phenomenon, or do you think it's got worse over the years, or it's just we're recognizing that that's actually an issue now in the workplace?
Gee, look, I don't know the stats on it, but I imagine it's getting a lot worse. Like I've heard similar statistics of big organizations, like half their budget going to pay people who aren't at work, who are not doing well because of the work they were doing.
Yes.
And now they're off on pretty much permanent sick leave. Like just massive amounts of money being spent because people haven't coped with work or aren't coping with what's happening at work. So I believe that in the days when we had a stronger community, there was a more natural way to debrief, daily life. But somehow that's broken down in the push to productivity. And, what manages a good counsellor after all sort of thing? They're into managing. It's just, there's this tension. I mean, I know a lovely guy who was basically the feedback as a manager was, look, you spend too much time with people.
Yeah.
Christian organisation sort of thing. And like, how do we get it right? That's the elusive formula, isn't it?
Yeah. One of the things I always say to people is business is all about relationships, because unless we have strong relationships with our customers, our employees, our suppliers, the government, our bank, all sorts of things, we're actually not in business and we won't do well. But I think one of the issues, and we discussed this earlier today when we had lunch earlier today, was we just don't seem to be able to do those relationships well anymore, or we're not taught to do it, or we're missing something because of that lack of community. Maybe we learn it more in the home in the past with a broader grandparents, aunts and uncles, those kind of things, but we don't seem to have that these days.
I mean, and you talk to people, how many people have never had a really good manager?
Yeah.
And people have sort of matured in that organisation. They've only got the models that they've had. And if there's no really good models of management, well, how do you become a good manager?
Yes.
It's quite a challenge.
That's
and then
right.
if you do change becoming one, will you fit in the organisation anymore?
Yeah. So that's right. So Michael, the topic again is creating an enriched environment where people can operate well. What's on your heart to speak about during this? What are you going to take us through?
Well, look, I tend to come at most things from two directions. One is from a direction of like neuropsychology, how were we actually made to work? And the other direction is from a spiritual direction. What's actually going on spiritually in these circumstances? People sort of divorce those two or just focus on one, but I see them both completely relevant. So what I'll be going through is some of the modern understanding of neuropsychotherapy. So it's basically how the brain is made and how growth and learning happen, how all that works. Things have been tied down as far as brain structure and function of what you need to get right for thriving, for learning, for social integration to happen. And there's some pretty clear things. For instance, safety. If safety isn't in place, both psychological and physical, people are basically distracted by trying to make themselves safe. And, when someone's been after you, you're always trying to defend yourself,
Yes. Yeah.
And you're not doing creative good work while that's happening. You're being distracted, or so much of your energy is going to trying to make yourself safe. Yet if we've got a safe work environment where that's open and honest and people can connect with each other, that's sort of settled, and we can use our mind and, to focus on more important things. So some of the recipe is simply connection. We need to be able to be connected to people who are important to us, who are going to support us, and simply who will be pleased to be with us. Have you ever been to a workplace where you're not welcome?
Yes.
I mean, it's hard to work productively. But one of the lines is joy. What do they say? Yeah, joy gets things done. When people are pleased to be with each other and they can connect and work together, they get stuff done because they're happy in that environment. It's a good environment to be in. So that's the simple one, but the connection goes a lot further. So you need an environment where you feel connected with enough important people. So that's one level. Another level is you actually need to be in control yourself, to have enough control over what you're doing that you're happy with that. If people keep taking control away from you, it makes you scared, basically. It makes you fearful. It makes you despondent. So control is really significant. The other one is motivation. And neurologically, that's based on motivation comes from having a freedom to get away from pain, to diminish pain, so things that are bad to make them better, or to increase pleasure. And so if we can do something about a workplace to make it more enjoyable, to make it more productive, and we have that freedom, we're actually more motivated. But you pull those things away and people don't care as much. And, now they'll say presenteeism is about 50% of the workforce. Half the workforce is turning up, but how hard are they working really? They're there, but they're not there. Well, what can be done about that? And how many people in your organisation or in your business do you want to be present and not really working?
Yeah.
But if they love being there, if they're connected with you, with each other, they've got the things in place then for, let's say that what's built on that is self-actualization can happen, learning can happen, thriving can happen. And that's what you want. You want the social integration, learning, thriving. And when you're in an environment when that's all happening, all sorts of good things can happen. But if any of those pillars fall over, you've got to go back and fix them before you get your momentum up again.
So, Michael, it actually sounds like you're talking about the fruits of the spirit operating in a workplace environment of love.
Wow.
Joy.
I hadn't heard it being put that way, Les.
Yeah, well, I'm just thinking, where have I heard those things before? And so, I guess when you're a Christian owner or a boss or a Christian manager, those fruits of the spirit will be operating throughout your life, hopefully, and setting the environment to do that. But I guess that's one of the difference between a Christian workplace and a non-Christian workplace. But saying that for Christians who work in a non-Christian workplace, they could actually exhibit and set the agenda for those fruits of the spirit to be operating in a workplace environment.
Another perspective I take on it from the spiritual point of view is like, what have you and your workplace or your business come into agreement with?
Yeah.
The whole thing of sowing and reaping. Is it all right to cut people short, to not do a full deliver what you say you're going to deliver?
Yes.
What's okay and what's not. And, the enemy wants to kill, steal and destroy. So any way you've sown something that's in the long term is going to produce negative fruits, well, he wants that to happen. He doesn't want good fruits to come. And so he's going to hold against you what you put there. And you see whole organizations, there's actually something over them, and someone good comes in there and they start acting as badly as the people who are already there.
Yeah.
And is it all emotional, psychological, or is there something spiritual going on?
Yeah.
And people aren't big enough to handle it.
Yeah.
So I think, and as a business owner, if you're the one that takes ultimate responsibility, well, you have a lot of power in that place if you know your authority and how that all works.
Yeah. Yeah.
To establish the spiritual environment there.
Yeah, I must admit, I've seen it in we worked in Saudi Arabia for a year, and it's a very oppressive society because it's one of the only countries around the world that doesn't have a church. So the oppression over Saudi is quite strong. And I noticed that when people came into that environment, they just went skew whiff. It was like, people flipped out, all sorts of strange things happened. But when they left, they came back to normal again. So I know that's an extreme example, but that's the kind of thing you're talking about, is getting the head right, getting the right authority, getting all that in place can actually have a huge impact on the workplace.
Absolutely. And imagine if you've got a workplace where people are really in a good space and customers come into that, interact with that, and they actually feel really good. They're in a good space because they're connected with you. They're, in a sense, coming under the covering that you and your business are offering.
Yeah.
Well, that's got to be good for business.
Yeah, they're gonna be spending some more money in your business, and they're going to be wanting to be there as well. Okay, well, Michael, we need to start to wrap this up.
They want to be part of it.
Yeah, they want to be part of it, and that's, you want to create an environment where people want to be in. They want to work there. They're going to be more productive there. And suppliers want to work with you. Customers want to come with you. People want to partner with you, other investors and those kind of things as well. So it's a bigger thing, which is what you're talking about there, which is great.
Okay. Yeah, for sure.
Michael, before we wrap this up, it's not something you're specifically going to be talking about on the day, but one of the things that you're into is the Immanuel approach. And I've loved learning just a little bit about this. You want to give a bit of a snapshot about what you mean by the Immanuel approach?
Yeah, look, I've been training people in different places on the Immanuel approach, and one of the headings I put for emails to promote some of my training was, "What if Jesus really knew what to do?" You know, like, it's a radical question, but what if he did? You know, if he really knew what to do? And a whole lot of the time, like, I've done a lot of prayer ministry, but in a sense it can be, well, we know what to do, and so we do it, we take authority and we sort what we have to sort. But, you know, if he really knows what to do, and there's a good chance he does, that connecting a person to him and let a person and him, between the two of them, decide what's important and focus on that, it might be quite a lot faster than you trying to work out what they need to address right now.
Yeah.
And asking the Lord to do that.
Yes.
So the Immanuel approach is a simple, it's a beautiful research-backed form of prayer ministry. It's drawing on modern science of people like Alan Shaw and Dan Siegel and Jim Wilder and Carl Lehman. It's drawing on that and the best of the prayer ministry backgrounds. So the Immanuel approach is basically leading people in to sense the presence of the Lord and to interact with him. And then once you get them interacting, which can take a little bit of lead in and training of their habits of how to do that, when they're interacting with him, then you take the back seat and you just coach them to keep connected with him and interact. And he builds their capacity, he speaks into their identity, he gives them all sorts of practical short-term help. And as he brings up things for healing that are interfering with their relationship with him, and he brings permanent healing, then it's not there anymore. It's a wonderful way to completely resolve trauma to any degree, even if it was started at quite young. So a very powerful healing approach, yet the main purpose of it is to deal with blocks between a person's heart and the Lord. And as people do that more, they move more into an Immanuel lifestyle where they're sensing his presence day-to-day, work situations, driving in the car, in relationships, and can go with living with him in everyday life. So that's not a really short introduction. It's a pretty big one, but that's the picture of it, Wes. Yeah.
Well, it certainly gives you, it's been whetting my appetite, and I'm certainly going to be learning more about this as it goes. So, Michael, if people wanted to get in contact with you, so they're maybe not able to attend the breakfast, what's the best way? Do you have a website, something they can contact you on?
Look, the easiest way is if you look up 3 Chairs, Counselling and Consulting, that's my business name. And you'll find me, if you search me, Michael Shaefer, if you Google and put Immanuel Focused Therapy, that's the sort of therapy I teach, you'll find me pretty quickly through that.
Okay, excellent. So people know that I really promoted a book called 2 Chairs. So I was fascinated when you talked about 3 Chairs Counselling, because it adds an extra dimension to that. So it's a really good name. Well, thank you so much, Michael, for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you at our next Prophet Club and hearing what God has laid on your heart to share with us. So thank you very much.
Fantastic, Wes. Thanks a lot. Take care.